everyone, welcome back to Great Sports Debates. We're back with NFL picks for week 2. Last week we did 3-0 on our best bets that we gave you, as well as our underdog pick where we told you to take Miami Dolphins outright. So this week we're going to start with the first game on Thursday night, and this is a tricky one. So right now I have it Minnesota 21, Philadelphia 28, with the Vikings barely covering. Now, it's hard to trust the Vikings after they lost last week to Tampa Bay, which, I was considering if I liked Minnesota, I wound up going with Minnesota minus the points, and they lost outright. So, as hard as it is to trust Minnesota, Philly didn't look all that sharp week 1, but not only that, if you look back to last year, they had a lot of big numbers. And, unlike Buffalo or Dallas, they didn't meet the big number very often. So we're going to give the Vikings one more chance. And not one I'd bet on, but we're going to go with Vikings plus 7.5. Next on the list, we have Chicago and Tampa Bay. Now, the Bears looked awful as expected. If you saw the power rankings I did for this week, I have them at 31. So Tampa Bay minus 2.5 is one that I really like. I got the score Chicago 17, Tampa 21. This is a pretty good bet. In the next game, we got the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is one I'd probably stay away from at this point. We've seen one, real game for Jordan Love, and they looked great, but they were playing the Bears. The offensive line looked good. One of the big things, if you do want to bet on this game, is checking the status of Aaron Jones, because he's just been a great running back for a long time. Both of these teams can run the ball very well. I'm lower on Atlanta more so than most. That cost me last week. Both teams can run the ball, but I think the deciding factor for me is I trust Green Bay's defense a little more, even though they lost Za'Darius and, the Falcons picked up Jesse Bates, who definitely gave them instant returns. But the biggest factor is, even with the little we know of Jordan Love, I'm definitely riding with him over Atlanta's quarterback situation. So we're going with Green Bay minus the 1.5. Next up, we got the Colts versus the Texans. This is a very tough one for me. This is one that I wouldn't touch. Both these teams I don't expect to be very good. I'm leaning the Colts way on this game. Colts are minus 1.5. Road dog for them. I feel like they have the stronger offensive line. But again, this isn't one that I'd be looking to bet. Next up, we got Lions and the Seahawks. So, if you jumped in on this early, at one point the Lions were minus 3. And that would definitely be one we'd hammer as a best bet. Because I can see the Lions winning anywhere from 3 to 7 here. At 5.5, it makes it a little tougher, but I'm going to stick with the Lions. It was close when they played last year. I don't think it's going to be the big shootout number like last year, like some people are saying. They're definitely still going to put points on the board. But I think with both teams running more and being able to run on the other team more, you might have a slower pace game. And, if the Lions can run the ball, I think they're going to do so. Okay, this one is my best bet. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm trying to think of all the angles, but I really, really like the Chargers minus 3.5 against Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee's going to be able to run the ball. and slow the game down. But, the Chargers just have way too many weapons on offense. And, if the Chargers are going to score constantly, and if they hit anywhere near that 30 mark, there's just no way Tennessee's going to be able to keep up with that pace. And, despite it being at home and how great of a coach, Mike Vrabel is, when your options are Tannehill or Malik Willis or, the rookie that they just drafted who didn't have a great offseason, it's going to be tough to win games in this league. Next up, we're looking at the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is another one that I like. I think Baltimore can win this game outright. In fact, I got them 24-23. And with the Ravens getting 3.5 points, I probably wasn't as high on Cincinnati as most people to start the season. I consider these teams pretty similar, and then especially after watching how they both played week one, not to overreact or anything off of 1 week, but like I said, I was already, had these teams on a similar level to start with. I'm definitely going with the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson, got his first action. He's going to be more sharp this week. Obviously, we expect Joe Burrow to be a lot more sharp than he was last week. But this would be a good one to check out. I like the Ravens plus 3.5. Okay, moving on. We got the Raiders and the Bills. The Raiders were able to squeak one out against Denver. Buffalo did not perform as I expected last week. But I'm going to continue to ride the Buffalo Bills train. I still think that they are one of the better teams in the league. And even though it's minus 8.5, Buffalo covered multiple double-digit spreads and was right there on a couple other ones last year. I like Buffalo 31-20. I think they're going to win by double digits despite the big number. All right, with the Chiefs and the Jaguars, this is another one I really, really like. This is another one that I'll be betting on, as well as the Chargers game. The Chiefs minus 3. I know on the score, I only have them win by 4, and they're favored by 3. But I feel like this is like tie or win, like pretty certainly. The Chiefs are, most people probably had at the top of the list to start the season. They've been great for a long time. I have them over their 11.5 win total this year, which I still think they're going to do, and they've consistently done over the last several years. Chris Jones is back. Kelsey's probably going to play. I probably started the season, or maybe not this season, but definitely midpoint last season, higher on the Jags than most. But they don't really match up with Kansas City. Kansas City does everything better, and I would definitely look at the over on this game. I think they're both going to put some points up, but Kansas City minus 3 is a pretty good bet. All right, this one is a little bit tougher. I've been back and forth on this. If you looked at the power rankings, I'm higher on the Rams than most. I would be concerned of a shootout type of game with San Francisco giving up 7.5. But I actually just adjusted my score when I saw the line, because I can't bet against San Francisco after watching them week one. And they were already in my top tier category, before that game even happened. Minus 7.5 is a pretty big number. I'm not going to bet on this game quite yet, but I would definitely lean San Francisco's way, and I think it's going to be hard for any team, especially the way their defense was playing in week one, to put up a lot of points against them. All right, this is another one that's back and forth on a few times. I initially had, before watching the Week 1 games, this was a game that I thought that the Giants would cover. Between the Cardinals doing a little better than I expected, and obviously I didn't expect much for the Giants. In fact, that was one of our best bets last week. I said, Dallas minus 3.5. They're probably going to win by a touchdown, and I mean they won by 40. So clearly, even though I wasn't high on the Giants, they still managed to go below my projections. Arizona's got a pretty good defense. I could see this being a low-scoring game. I'd be looking at maybe the under on this one, and I'm going to lean towards Arizona plus 5.5. That's a pretty good-sized number, for a game where I have two teams that I'm not a huge fan of. All right, here's the pick that I flipped on right before we were doing this video. Talking with a couple of people that I really trust, and that'll kind of remind me, hey, you got Cowboys number 2 on your power rankings. They have the ability to blow teams out. My first initial thought was 9.5 is a huge number with 2 of the league's best defenses. But the point that was made to me, and the point that I'm going to give to you guys that really hits home is, with Zach Wilson at quarterback, it's really hard picturing a scenario where the Jets score more than 10 points. And, Zach Wilson had a lot of games where he really self-destructed this team last year, and I'm sure he didn't get the same reps with everything being built around Aaron Rodgers this year. If I'm wrong here, maybe I'll have to get on the Jets bandwagon because I was wrong last week with them against Buffalo. But for now, I got Cowboys 21-10. If I did bet on this, I'd actually bet the under. Even though it's a low number, it's 38.5. I think that's a pretty good spot, considering I'm looking at a range for point total between 31 and 38. So that's pretty excellent value. I like the under on this game. All right, we got the Commanders and the Broncos. I don't like either of these teams. I got the score 21-17. My first thought in the conversation I had was the Broncos are not good. They rarely crack 20 points. And I can't imagine any scenario where another team is getting 3.5 or more that I'm not betting against the Broncos. So this is more of an indictment on the Broncos than the Commanders. But I'm taking Commanders plus 3.5 here. Miami versus New England. I got Miami here 27-24. Take Miami minus 2.5. They should definitely win by at least a field goal. Their offense is on fire, and I definitely wanted to check out this game just to get a good look at the Patriots so I can get a better feel for them. Last week when they played against Philadelphia, I didn't get to see much of that game, so it was just, checking out the highlights and whatnot. But New England is definitely a team I want to check out. I'll definitely be watching Philadelphia on Thursday night. So moving on to the last 2 games, the Monday night games. We got that doubleheader Monday for week 2. We got the Saints and the Panthers. I'm going to lean towards the Saints here, minus 2.5. They burned me by not covering last week. But I'm still expecting Carr to do pretty well in this offense, even though he hasn't quite yet. Bryce Young might be good eventually, but not really yet. I'll take the Saints 24-20, and the Saints are a team that I'm looking for to really do good. Once Kamara and they have that whole offense going as the season progresses. And then finally, to wrap it up, we got the Browns versus the Steelers. This is another one that I really like. This might be my silver or bronze pick here. The Browns 24, the Steelers 21. At only -1.5, I really like the Browns. I feel like they're a much better team. The only thing that concerns me at all with this is with Conklin going down. You're going to have a downgrade at tackle. And, TJ Watt, even in that game where they got destroyed by San Francisco, was phenomenal. So that's the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous. When I tried to look at all the points, because, when I first looked at it, I said, man, Cleveland -1.5 is really good. And I do like that. I think they're going to be able to run the ball well. Their defense looked to be kind of what we expected it to be last year. Plus, they have added pieces. Plus, with their defensive coordinator moving Garrett around, they're getting lots of pressure. So this will be another great one to watch for a number of reasons. One, to kind of see, if Cleveland just had that good game against Cincinnati, or if their defense is legit. We already know that they're going to be able to run the ball. It'll also be interesting to see, hey, does Deshaun Watson start to progress? I think at this point we can kind of rule out he's never going to be the guy that was, with the Houston Texans, but how good can he play is the question. And then the most important thing is on the Steelers side of the ball. I know a lot of people really liked what they did in the preseason, and people were kind of high on them, especially the way they finished the season strong last year. And then, the San Fran game was one of my best bets last week. I was like, dude, San Fran only -2.5. They're going to kill the Steelers. But obviously not expecting anything like the way that game turned out. So this will be a great game to get a better gauge on exactly where both of these teams are at. So that's it for the picks. Here's the list of everyone that we have. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hit me in the comment section. And thanks for watching.